In this video, we'll understand Porter's 5 forces model, and I'll also discuss an example so that you get the concept better. The Porter's 5 forces model is a strategic framework that helps to identify and analyze 5 forces that affect a company's profitability in any given industry. These 5 forces are threat of new entrants, bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, threat of substitutes, and competitive rivalry. When you understand each force, you can formulate a strategy that will allow a company to better cope with competitive forces and increase profit. Now let's take a closer look at each force. First is the threat of new entrants. When an industry starts becoming profitable, it will entice new entrants. If the barriers to entry are low, new entrants can easily capture market share and threaten profitability. New entrants undercut prices and offer valuable alternatives to what your industry currently provides. Next is bargaining power of suppliers. Suppliers offer your industry the needed inputs to operate, for example, components, materials, and services. When the bargaining power of suppliers is high, there is a strong chance your suppliers could set higher prices for those inputs or reduce quality without retaliation. If you have a number of suppliers to choose from, their bargaining power is likely low, so you will not have a problem switching suppliers if needed. Next is bargaining power of buyers. In Porter's 5 forces model, buyers are your customers. At the expense of industry profitability, strong buyer power can lower prices, pit rivals against each other, and demand higher quality or service. The power of customers is higher when they are few in number and have many sellers to choose from. Beyond this, if a large portion of a seller's revenue is determined by a handful of buyers, those buyers will have more leverage. Next is threat of substitute product or services. All firms in an industry are competing with other industries that make substitute products or services. An example is a messaging app that is a substitute for email, or an airline website replacing travel agents with its own ticket booking system. If there are many substitutes that can perform a similar function as your product or service, then the threat of substitutes is high. If there are few substitutes that provide the same function as your product or service, the threat of substitution is low. Next is competitive rivalry. In order to capture their share of the market, rivals will compete on price, quality, service, marketing spend, etc. Competitive intensity is the highest when your buyers have a plenty of alternatives. There is little service or product differentiation between rivals, and when industry growth is slowing. If the buyer can choose from a fair number of competitors, the buyer can start bidding wars and reduce profits. When there is little differentiation between rivals, your product or service will be perceived as a commodity, and the buyer will purchase solely on price. If an industry's growth is slowing, the existing firms will be in fight to maintain their piece of the market share. Now let's take the case study of Spotify to understand this concept much better. Spotify has completely disrupted how the music industry functions and how people consume music. But as we signaled before, the competitive environment is dynamic, and you need to iterate on your Porter 5 forces analysis to understand changes in your position. In Spotify's example, the highest threats are bargaining power of suppliers. Music labels and artists hold significant control over licensing agreements and royalty rates. And the competitive rivalry of Spotify are streaming platforms such as Apple Music and Amazon Music. They intensify the pressure on Spotify to differentiate its offering and retain subscribers. I hope you found this video helpful. Do subscribe to BizTalks for more such content. Thank you for watching.